Did you look inside your ship? My parents were married on my mother's 17th birthday, May 10th, 1906. After spending about 10 days visiting friends and relatives, a happy couple left from our father's ranch just south of Barton. Mother was busy her first days in Texas making curtains for the windows of the 3-room house the couple called home. Then she turned her attention to the neglected garden my father had planted in the spring. But all these things didn't take long to do, and the pangs alone that set in as she gazed out of her kitchen window at the endless Texas rainland. A soft knock on the front door announced the arrival of Mrs. Ruth, who lived a short distance down the road. She came to make the acquaintance of her new neighbor and to offer any help that might be needed. She knew all about loneliness and how homesickness was since she had come to Texas 10 years before as the bride of Lyman Ruth. She said the best way to fight the feeling of loneliness was to keep a person's hand and mind busy, and that way was to piece a quilt. On Mrs. Ruth's next visit, she brought a box full of her quilt patterns, and the two women spent an enjoyable afternoon laying those out on the kitchen table, deciding which pattern to use. And last, my mother chose what she called the Lonestar of Texas to make. The next day, the two women made a trip to the general store in Arnold to purchase material for the quilt, while the storekeeper didn't keep a large stock of new goods that would have been found in Dallas or even in Hereford. He had just what my mother wanted, plain yellow and plain blue. The yellow was for the yellow rose of Texas, and the blue was for the bluebonnets that grew wild all over the state. For Christmas time, the Lonestar quilt was finished, and gracing the bed in the only bedroom in the house. With it was a new bedspread, crocheted out of whipcord, a rather difficult material to work with. In February '09, the quilt bedspread were carefully packed in a trunk, along with some keepsakes from express rail to Kearney, Nebraska. My parents were moving to a farm along the Platte River. The farmhouse in Kearney was much larger than the Texas ranch house had been. It had a master bedroom and 2 for guests. The Lonestar quilt was used in one of the guest bedrooms and the bedspread in the other. Every winter in Nebraska, my mother pierced a new quilt and finished it on the frames my father had made for her. She put together the wagon wheel, the daisy chain, the log cabin, sunburst, and one she called a houndstooth. After 5 years in Nebraska, my parents prepared to move to Erie, Kansas, to farm on the Neosho River bottom. The trunk was packed again, this time for the Lonestar quilt was accompanied by the new quilts. Hidden between their folds were several painted and signed plates, a new hobby for her mother. The Lonestar occupied its usual place. It rested on top of all the other quilts. Their trunk was shipped to Kansas and the car along with a pair of buggy horses, a buggy, 2 milk cows, some farm machinery. My father rode in the car to care for the animals. In Kansas City, the railroad shuttled the car out on the bridge over the Missouri River. The cold was unbearable, and my father was freezing. He opened the trunk and took out the Lonestar quilt to completely wrap himself in. And then he huddled under a heavy lap robe to fight off the cold. At Erie, the Lonestar was used every day on my parents' bed until I was born. It was then folded and placed in the bottom of a bassinet, and one end was used to cover me. They went with me to the crib while I was old enough to move to one. The day came when it was time to move again, and this time to Iowa. The Lonestar quilt wasn't packed in the trunk for this trip. It rode in the back seat of the Model T touring car for me to sleep on and to keep me warm. In Iowa, the quilt was in this proper place on my parents' bed, and in time it began to show its age. The edges had begun to fray, and there was a tear here and there. It became the cover for the tomatoes in the garden on the frosty nights. It was used to protect the baby chicks when they were brought from the hatchery. And when my mother hatched her own chicks in the basement, the ragged old Lonestar quilt was used on the top of the incubator to help maintain an even temperature. My mother had an absolute rigid schedule when it came to house cleaning, and during the third week of April, a living room with the heater was taken down and stored for the summer on the back porch. The rugs were taken up and a carpet beer was applied out on the clothesline to knock out the dust. The floors were scrubbed, some of the woodwork was painted, the room too was papered, the windows clean and shined. That house was spotless. The winter's grime had been washed away, my mother said. The second week of October is reserved for the fall house cleaning. The heating stove was brought into the back porch where it has been since spring. It was polished and the stovepipe put up, making it ready for lighting the fire. The rest of the fall cleaning was a repeat of the spring cleaning, and my mother decreed that summer dust had been wiped away. I noticed that my father always had to fix fence in the back 40 during those times when my mother was having her house cleaning fit. At first I was too young to help my mother with her house cleaning chore. Then for a while I was in school and she worked at it. The year I graduated from high school, I was home for the fall house cleaning. She immediately directed me to help. And not only did we clean the house, but we gathered up the trash in the woodshed, the summer kitchen, and burned it along with the garden and lawn refuse. When the bonfire was blazing at its peak that fall, my mother brought to the fire the Lonestar quilt, a tattered and quite worn quilt, and handed it to me. She told me to throw it in the burning pile. And when I questioned the act, she said old quilts deserve the same courtesy as old worn-out American flag. As she turned to leave, I detected a tear in her eye. It was just a few minutes. The quilt was reduced to ashes. The Lonestar quilt was no more. It was about a month short of being 30 years old. How your mother planned